Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for watching our group presentation today. Before we start, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ikhzani bin Samsuri. My metric number is E24A 3127, and I will presenting the introduction part of our topic today. The title of our presentation is Geochemical Process in Soil, Rocks and Water. I will begin the introduction and my teammates will explain each section in more details, covering rocks, soil and water. Before we dive into technical aspect, I would like to start with a simple question. Have you ever wondered how chemical elements in Earth change from one to another? For example, how does an element like iron dissolve into groundwater and eventually reach plant through the soil? All this happen due to chemical process, and this is the main focus of our presentation today. Let's begin by understanding what geochemistry actually means. Geochemistry is a branch of geoscience that study how chemical elements and compounds exist, move, and transform within the Earth system. This system includes soil, rocks, and water. Geochemistry combines chemical principles like geological context to help us understand various nature phenomena such as mineral formation, groundwater contamination, and even soil fertility. It doesn't just look at the elements themselves, but also the natural process that cause this element to change, such as weathering, dissolution, precipitation, ion change, and redox reaction. This process occurs continuously from deep within the Earth crust up to the surface and interact with the atmosphere and biosphere. In general, geochemical process can be grouped in three components. Those that occur in rocks, soil, and water. All three components are interconnected and from a complex system. For example, when rocks are exposed on Earth's surface, they can undergo chemical weathering. The products of this weathering contribute to formation of soil. The dissolved minerals may then move into groundwater system, where they can transported to other location or be reprecipitated as new mineral. So why is it important to study geochemical processes? Firstly, from an environmental perspective, geochemistry helps us to understand how contaminants like heavy metals move and accumulate in soil and water. This is crucial for monitoring and rehabilitating polluted areas. Secondly, in agriculture, soil chemistry provides insights into soil fertility, pH balance, and nutrient availability, all of which affect plant to growth. Thirdly, in mining and exploration, knowledge of rock chemistry allows us to identify potential source and valuable minerals such as gold, copper, and rare earth elements. Furthermore, in the context of global climate change, geochemistry plays a role in understanding the carbon cycle. For example, how carbon dioxide is absorbed by rocks and ocean, which ultimately affect global temperatures. In our presentation, each group member will cover one part of chemical system in more detail. We hope this presentation will not only give you a basic understanding of geochemistry, but also raise awareness of how important is it to understand the interaction between chemistry and nature. With that, now I will hand over our presentation to my group mates that she will explain about more in a geochemical process in soil. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rachel and today I will talk about geochemical process in soil. Before we think of soil as just dirt or something we walk on, it is important to realize that soil is a living, dynamic system. It is made of minerals, organic matter, water, air, and countless microorganisms all interacting together. One of the key forces driving these interactions are geochemical processes, which means the chemical reactions happening between soil minerals, water, gases, and organic substances. These reactions control how soil forms and evolves over time. They influence everything from soil fertility and nutrient availability to pH, pollutant movement, and soil structure. In other words, geochemical processes are what make soil capable of supporting plant growth, filtering water, and sustaining ecosystem. Today, I will be explaining 5 major geochemical processes: weathering, ion exchange, redox reactions, adsorption and desorption, and lastly is human impacts and why they matter for soil health and environmental management. The first key process is weathering, which means the breakdown of rocks and minerals into small particles that form soil. There are 2 types of weathering. The first one is physical weathering, like when rocks break apart from temperature changes, water, or wind. The second one is chemical weathering, where minerals are chemically altered by reactions like hydrolysis, oxidation, and carbonation. For example, feldspar reacts with water to form clay minerals, releasing potassium and silica. Weathering is essential because it releases nutrients and creates the mineral that make up soil. Next is ion exchange. Soil particles, especially clay and organic matter, have negative charges on their surfaces. These charges attract and hold onto positively charged ions or cations like calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. Plants can swap hydrogen ions for these nutrients, allowing them to absorb what they need. Ion exchange is really important because it controls nutrient availability and helps buffer soil pH, preventing sudden chemical changes. The third key process is redox reaction, which involve the gain or loss of electrons in soil. These reactions depend on how much oxygen is available. For example, in well-aerated soils, iron stays in the oxidized form, ferrum 3+, giving soils a red or brown color. But in waterlogged soils, like rice paddies, iron is reduced to ferrum 2+, leading to gray or blue soil colors. Redox reactions affect the solubility of nutrients like iron and manganese, and they also controls the movement and certain pollutants. Another process is adsorption and desorption. Adsorption is when ions or molecules stick to the surface of soil particles, while desorption is when they're released back into the soil water. A good example is phosphate binding to iron oxide particles. This keeps phosphate from leaching away, but also makes it harder for plants to access. Adsorption and desorption are really important for controlling how pollutants and nutrients move through the soil, and they play a big role in soil cleanup or remediation. Lastly is human activities, which can disrupt these natural geochemical processes. For example, Applying fertilizers increases nutrients in the soil but can also cause nutrient leaching and water pollution. Acid rain can increase soil acidification and releasing toxic metals. Mining exposes sulfide minerals which can oxidize and produce acid mine drainage. And irrigation in dry areas can lead to salt buildup or salinization harming crops. These impacts show why it is so important to understand and manage soil chemistry. To sum up, geochemical processes like weathering, ion exchange, redox reaction, and adsorption are essential to how soils form, change, and function. These chemical reactions don't just happen on their own, they're influenced by factors like climate, organisms, human activities, and time. Through these processes, soils provide nutrients from plants, regulate pH, pollutants, and store carbon. In other words, soil acts as a natural filter, nutrient reservoir, and environmental buffer, which play a silent but crucial role in sustaining ecosystem and agriculture. However, human activities like intensive farming, mining, industrial pollution, and poor land management can disrupt these delicate chemical balances. This can lead to problems such as soil acidification, salinization, heavy metal contamination, and loss of fertility, threatening food security and environmental health. By understanding and respecting these geochemical processes, we can make better decisions to protect soil resources, promote sustainable agriculture, and mitigate environmental impacts.
My name is Muhammad Sufyan bin Soy. My nomometric is E24A3133. I will talk about a geochemical process in rocks. There are three types of rock. First, igneous rock. Second, sedimentary rocks. And last one is metamorphic rocks. In three major parts, there are sub of their process in their own rocks. Okay. Next slide is igneous rocks. We will go to party melting rock first. A melting of rock occurs over a range of temperature, which is a high and low decrease. When a high decrease of a melting give more mafic mats. Meanwhile, a low decrease of a pattern melting favor a silica-rich calcite mat. Second one is a magma melting. A magma from a different source has a mix between at least two or more different type of magma. Will create an intermediate hybrid magma. And third one is friction crystallization. According to Brown's reaction series, mafic minerals crystallize first. Meanwhile, felsites minerals was the last one. Okay, next we will go to next slide. Crystal accumulation. Heavy crystal like Oliver will sink meanwhile and change magma composition. Violet content, which is water or carbohydrates, carbon, which H2O or CO2, will influence a magma viscosity, melting point, and crystal behavior. Next, pressure and temperature condition will influence a magma. Next, pressure and temperature condition. A high pressure stabilizes minerals like granite and effect mineral form a chemical balance. Okay, next slide is a sedimentary rocks. There are six. There are five process. We will go first. First is original. A composition of the original rocks will affect a sedimentary chemistry, which is a control the chemical composition of a metamorphic rock. For example, granite and basalt. In granite, a source high in a quartz is felspar. Meanwhile, a basalt source high in mafic minerals like ferrum and magnesium. We will go to the next one is weathering. There are two types of weathering. Is first physical and second is chemical. In physical, it will break down the rock into a similar part without changing their chemical composition. Uh, Meanwhile, chemical weathering is change the chemical of the composition in minerals, and the reaction is like some like hydrolysis, oxidation, dissolution, and release mobile ion. And next one is transportation, a movement of the particle by water, wind, or ice. The selected transport based on the size, density, and the solution. The faint particle and stabilized ion travel further. This position is one of their processes. Chemical sedimentary from the dissolution ion, particularly carbon, has a silicon and dolomite. And lastly, in sedimentary rocks, there are diagenesis, which is will change the after deposition under a low temperature and pressure. Okay. Next is metamorphic rocks. There are five parts in these rocks. First, partial melting and flight activity, temperature, pressure, and protein composition. First, we will go one by one. Partial melting. It will happen at a high-grade metamorphosis and form a magmatic, a part of a melted rocks. And second, flood activity. A chemical activity floods and can add or remove elements, promote mineral reaction, and crystallize growth. Third, a temperature. A high pressure will recrystallization in a new mineral and control mineral based on their term stability fluid. Second last is pressure. A change a mineral shape. It will change a mineral shape in orientation, flood, and effect a mineral reaction. And lastly, a protein composition. From the original rocks, control metamorphic outcome like shell and as go on, which is the end will has a rich in aluminium. And the second one is basalt will keep change into green bleach to the MP Baltic, which has a rich in ferrum and magnesium. So all of this process will keep repeating in this earth. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Hello and Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Nuri Ida Rosli, E248334. I'm the next member of the group K, which is I'm going to present about the geochemical process in water. So before we go into deeper of this topic, I want to explain what is geochemical process in water. So basically, this process involves various interaction and transformation that affect the chemical composition and the quality of water bodies. So the main key processes including water-rock interactions such as weathering process and dissolution of minerals, as well as organic matter, decomposition and oxidation reduction reactions. These processes play a crucial role in the humanity because they play a role in shaping the chemical characteristic of both surface and groundwater. Next, we move to the water cycle. Water cycle, also known as the hydrologic cycle, which is describe the continuous movement of water on, above and below the Earth's surface. These cycles involve processes like evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and runoff. Water evaporates from the Earth's surface, rises into the atmosphere, cools and condenses into clouds, and then falls back to the surface at the precipitation. Next, we move to the chemical weathering process in geochemical process in water. So what is chemical weathering? Chemical weathering is the breakdown of rocks and minerals through chemical reaction, usually involving water, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and acids. These reactions alter the mineral structure, producing new minerals and dissolved ions that are carried away by water. Chemical weathering changes the composition of the rock, unlike physical weathering which only breaks it down mechanically. First, we have oxidation. Oxidation happens when mineral contain iron react with oxygen and water, which increasing oxidation state of metal. For example, iron in silicates is oxidized to ferrum 3+, forming hematite or limatite, common in olivine pyroxene or inflammable weathering. Formed in red or yellow staining rocks due to the iron oxides. Oxidation alters mineral stability and gives weather rocks characteristic colors. So next we have hydrolysis. Hydrolysis is where water reacts with minerals, especially silicates, to form secondary minerals and dissolve ions. Most important in felsic silicates such as feldspar. So for example, feldspar react with carbonic acid, will form clay which is kyanite and sodium plus bicarbonate and dissolve silica. Next, we have carbonation. Carbonation is a specific type hydrolysis involving carbon dioxide, which is CO2, react with water to form carbonic acid. This process is very effective in humid climates and contributes significantly to global air carbon cycling. For example, an acid reacts with carbonate rocks like limestone, this process dissolves limestone and contributes to karst landscape, sinkholes and cave system. Last but not least, we have dissolution. Dissolution is a process where minerals dissolve in water, particularly those with ionic bond. The ions dissociate and are transported away by water. This process removes soluble minerals and increases ion content in rivers and oceans, such as halite dissolve easily in water and gypsum also dissolve readily. Next, we move to the acid hydrolysis. So what is acid hydrolysis? Acid hydrolysis is a specific type of chemical weathering where acidic water reacts with minerals, breaking them into new mineral and dissolve ion. It is specifically important in the weathering of silicate rocks. So for example, where water and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere for carbonic acid, which is this weak acid react with mineral, particularly feldspar and silicates, breaking them into the chemical bonds. Acid hydrolysis can result in toxic runoff and acidic source of water, which is this produce sulfuric acid, which is further accelerates rock breakdown and pollutes water. Next, the characteristic of acid hydrolysis, which is this acid produce secondary minerals, especially clays, release soluble ions into water important for soil formation, nutrient cycling, and ocean chemistry, and also requires water and is accelerated by carbon dioxide. Next, we move into environmental and geochemical impact, which is, first of all, is heavy metal mobilization can make water unsafe for drinking. Nutrient overload also from weathered rocks or irrigation leads to eutrophication, and lastly, acidification from acid mine drainage or acid rain impact aquatic ecosystem. Weathering of rocks, which is release iron into water, and dissolution and precipitation also, which is mineral dissolve into or precipitate out of water, depending on condition like pH level, temperature, and saturation. Last but not least is contamination from mining and industry. This process mining can expose sulfide minerals leading to acid mine drainage and leaches harmful metals. Industrial activities can alter geochemical balances, introducing pollutants into aquifers. Last but not least, salinization. In arid areas, evaporation can concentrate salts in surface and groundwater, affecting agriculture and drinking water. So that's all from me. Next, we move to the next member for the conclusion.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Amar Ashmawi by Muhammad Sani, number matric E24A3305. So for our presentation, I would like to talk about the conclusion. So the geochemical process are fundamental to understanding the dynamic interaction that shape the Earth's surface environment. This process govern the transformation, transport, and fate of chemical element in soil, rock, and water, influencing everything from nutrient cycling to environmental quality. So there are three types, which is the first one is soils, rock, and water. So the first one I would like to talk about the soils. In soils, geochemical process regulate nutrient availability and biogeochemical cycling, which are critical for plant growth and ecosystem sustainability. The pH, redox condition, and cation exchange capacity of soils influence the solubility and mobility of nutrients and contaminants. For instance, processes like adsorption, desorption, ion exchange, and complexation determine how elements such as phosphorus, nitrogen, heavy metals, and trace elements behave in the soil matrix. Okay, so this interaction also affects soil's fertility, buffering capacity, and the long-term sustainability of agricultural and natural ecosystem. So the second one is about the rock. In rocks, weathering, which is both physical, mechanical breakdown, and chemical dissolution, hydrolysis, oxidation. They initiate the release of elements into the environment. This weathering reaction lead to the formation of secondary minerals, for example, clays, oxides, and influence the mineralogical composition and stability of geological materials over time. Chemical weathering alters primary minerals like feldspar into secondary products like kaolinite, releasing cation such as kalium, calcium, and magnesium into soil and water system. These elemental flux form the foundation of the geochemical cycles and contribute to the formation of fertile soils. So the third one is about the water. So the water serves as a transport medium and reaction facilitator in geochemical system. It drives the dissolution and precipitation of minerals, which control the availability of element and regulates water chemistry such as pH, salinity, and hardness. So the water and rock interaction contribute to the mobilization of major ions like natrium, chlorine, calcium, and so on, and trace elements, while pollutants and dissolved species such as nitrates, heavy metals, or organic compounds are transported through groundwater and surface water pathway. These processes have major implications for drinking water quality, aquatic ecosystem health, and environmental remediation. So, I would like to combine this into one synthesis, which is the geochemical process in soil, rock, and water are part of an integrated system where each component influences and is influenced by the others. The breakdown of rocks supplies soils with mineral. Soils act as filters and reactors that interact with both solid and liquid phase, and water serves as both a medium for reaction and a vehicle for a transport. These processes are not only natural and essential for Earth's life support system, but are also critical for managing agriculture, water resources, pollution, and land use in a sustainable way. Understanding and modeling this interaction is crucial for environmental change, assessing geochemical hazard, and developing strategies for soil conservation, water treatment, and land rehabilitation. So, the summary of this. So the summary is geochemical process in rock, soil, and water are fundamental to Earth system functioning. This process control the release and transport of chemical elements, soil fertility, contaminant dynamics, and water chemistry, ecosystem health. Their integration across environmental system makes them essential for solving today's most pressing challenge, from ensuring food and water security to addressing environmental degradation and climate change. Sustainable management of this system depend on our ability to understand and predict their complex geochemical behavior. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching our presentation. Bye.